When you think of the deadliest animal on the planet, what pops into your head? Is it a shark? A wolf? Maybe a lion? Go ahead, get an answer in your mind. I have a feeling the reality is going to surprise you. Okay, let's start with the classic movie villain, the shark. I mean, after all the blockbusters, you'd think they're public enemy number one, right? Well, despite that terrifying reputation, sharks are only responsible for about 6 human deaths per year. Globally. That's it. Just 6. All right, so what about wolves? You know, the stuff of fairy tales and nightmares. They account for around 10 deaths annually. Still, way lower than you'd probably guess, right? And the king of the jungle, the lion. Fierce, powerful, the symbol of a perfect predator. Lions are responsible for about 22 deaths a year. But believe it or not, even that number is just a drop in the bucket compared to the real top killers. Because here's the shocking reality. The number one killer, and it's not even close, is the snake, with a staggering 100,000 deaths per year. Crocodiles are next at about 1,000. And then you've got animals like elephants accounting for around 500. The big takeaway here? The things we're most afraid of often aren't the things that are most dangerous. And that brings us to our first huge rule for survival. And it's one that goes against every single instinct you have. In a lot of encounters with predators, that urge to turn and run is the single worst thing you can possibly do. Sometimes you have to stand your ground and fight. Think about it. Take a lion. If you turn your back and run, you've just triggered a switch in its brain that says prey. The key is to completely break that script. You have to maintain eye contact, make yourself look as big as you can, and make loud, confident noises. Your goal isn't to be a meal, it's to be a weird, confusing, and potentially annoying thing that's just not worth the effort. Now, if a fight is truly unavoidable, you have got to know where to hit. With a shark, the key is to stay calm, move slowly. If it attacks, you go for the eyes and the gills. Those are its most sensitive spots. And it's a similar story with a crocodile. If it grabs you, its biggest weak spots are its eyes and throat. A hard, focused strike right there can be enough to make it let go. But, and this is so important, these rules are not universal. That aggressive, look at me, I'm big and scary display that could save your life with a lion, that will get you seriously hurt by a gorilla. With a gorilla, you do the complete opposite. You avoid eye contact, you stay quiet, and you make yourself look as small and non-threatening as possible. It just proves the most important rule of all. You have to know your opponent. Of course, fighting isn't always the right move, which brings us to rule number 2. Sometimes you absolutely should retreat, but we're not talking about panicked, blind running. We're talking about a strategic escape, one that uses the animal's own limitations against it. Let's look at some of the biggest animals out there. An elephant, for example, isn't very agile, so just putting a big rock or a sturdy tree between you and it can stop a charge dead in its tracks. A rhino has awful eyesight. You can literally hide behind a tree and it might just lose you. And a hippo, as fast and terrifying as it is on the ground, cannot climb. Getting up a steep hill or scrambling up a tree is your ticket to safety. See the theme? You're not outrunning them, you're outsmarting them. And this strategy even works for much smaller creatures. Bees, for instance, are attracted to dark colors, so wearing a black shirt can make you a bigger target. And if a swarm does start to pursue you, don't just run aimlessly. Find a dark place to hide, a car, a shed, anything. That sudden change from bright light to darkness really confuses them, and it can throw them right off your trail.
All right, now we get to my favorite part. The strategies that sound completely made up, but are absolutely real and based on actual animal behavior. This is the unconventional playbook.
So picture this. You've accidentally wandered into a kangaroo's personal space, and it's not happy. It starts getting aggressive, sizing you up for a fight. What do? I promise you, the answer is the absolute last thing you would ever think of. You give a short, quiet cough. No, I'm serious. In the kangaroo world, a cough is basically a signal for sickness or weakness. By coughing, you're telling that big dominant male, hey, I'm not a threat, I'm not a challenger, and it can completely de-escalate the situation, giving you a chance to back away slowly. It's just incredible animal psychology. So what about a charging bull? First off, forget everything you've seen in cartoons about the color red. Bulls are colorblind. They react to movement. So step 1 is to stand perfectly still. Then, take off a hat or a jacket and use it as a decoy. When the bull gets close, throw that thing as far away from you as you can. It will instinctively go for the moving object, giving you the precious seconds you need to get away. And here are two more classics. For a grizzly or a brown bear, the old advice is still the best advice. Play dead. Curl up in a ball, protect your neck, and do not move. You're trying to show it you're not a threat. But, and this is a life or death distinction, if it's a black bear, you fight back with everything you've got. Never, ever play dead with a black bear. As for snakes, if one seems to be following you, stomp your feet hard. They hear through vibrations in the ground, and all that commotion can confuse them and send them the other way. Okay, let's bust one of the most famous and, let's be honest, pretty gross survival myths out there. We've all seen it in a movie. Someone gets stung by a jellyfish, and a friend offers to help. Please, whatever you do, do not do this. It is totally false. In fact, the fresh water in urine can actually trigger the remaining stingers to release more venom, which makes the pain way worse. So what should you do? It's actually pretty simple. First, rinse the area with salt water, right from the ocean, never fresh water. Then, carefully remove any tentacles you can still see using a stick or tweezers, not your bare hands. And finally, if you happen to have it, an antihistamine cream can help reduce the reaction. So after all of this, from coughing at kangaroos to playing dead for bears, what's the big picture? What's the core mindset that ties all these different tactics together? Let's just boil it all down to the absolute essentials. Really, it all comes down to three things. Number one, know your enemy. Like we saw with the lion and the gorilla, there's no one-size-fits-all solution. 2, control your fear. Panic is a signal that you're prey. A calm, thinking mind is your single greatest weapon. And finally, number 3, have a plan. Just by listening to this, you've already started building one. You're replacing that raw, panicked instinct with a calculated response. So now, you're better prepared for everything from a charging rhino to a swarm of bees. You get the difference between a threat you see in the movies and a real one. You have a playbook. But as you go back out into the world, here's one last thought. After learning all the rules for all these wild animals, maybe the most dangerously unpredictable creature of all is still us. Stay safe.